We were just hearing her there talking about enforcement. And what we hear so often is that what we're seeing is regulation by enforcement. We have seen a spate of actions recently. Is there any reason to believe that the pace of that is going to slow down, or are we going to see more coming?
Well, first of all, Kaylee, welcome to Washington. There is a lot going on with Washington and crypto, so very appropriate that you are here. No, listen, I think what you observed is correct. We have certainly seen the pace at which enforcement actions, at which guidance and other regulatory actions are happening is moving very quickly. The problem we have is the way that many of these are happening is that they are behind closed doors, or they are enforcement actions or settlements related to very specific facts and circumstances. What we really need is a more open process where we look comprehensively at the entire marketplace, figure out the appropriate way to regulate different actors within the crypto ecosystem, and move forward in an open process where everyone can participate. What we need is for Congress to do legislation. That's really what we need. Unfortunately, that process is very slow, and regulators are stepping in the meantime, and it's certainly been frustrating from a U.S. industry perspective.
Well, so let's talk about Congress further then, because there was some hope that that may happen prior to the midterms last year. Obviously, it did not. Now we are faced with divided houses, chambers in Congress. So how optimistic are you feeling now that something bipartisan could get through? And if there is bipartisanship to be had, where would it be?
Yeah, well, I think it's a process, right? Obviously, with everything that happened with FTX last fall, we're in a little bit of a difficult position right now because a lot of people in Washington, those who were close with FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, feel a little bit burned by what happened and a little bit betrayed. But I do have a lot of hope, because if you look even at the House Financial Services Committee, this year they have designated a brand new digital asset subcommittee that's going to be focused exclusively on these issues. We have our team up on the Hill, Capitol Hill, every day at federal agencies as well, working to educate. We have more and more policymakers that are interested. So I'm hopeful. I'm particularly hopeful around stablecoin legislation. This is an issue that Congress has been looking at since 2019. There have been hearings in both the House and the Senate. Last year, we came really close to getting some bipartisan legislation done. So it's my hope that we can come out of the gate and that Congress can work to push forward that, because that's ready to go. The work has been done there. What we need to do, what Commissioner Pham was talking about, is we do need to spend some time looking at markets regulation, trying to figure out what are the risks. Because you have to remember, with crypto, the risks are different than they are in traditional financial services. And then we need to come up with a legislative and regulatory framework that's tailored to those risks. That's not going to happen overnight, but it's a process that I'm optimistic is going to be underway, particularly on the House side now that we have this new legislative committee.
Kristin, is it more difficult, given the nature of crypto assets in the blockchain, or is it easier to track money laundering or terrorist finance? These are some of the biggest allegations that I've heard, and it seems like it would be a breeze to figure out where the money's coming from and where it's going, but very difficult to nail down who owns those wallets.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Matt. So centralized entities in the United States have to register with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network as a money services business. This means they have to have a full anti-money laundering program, and they must know your customer. They must figure out who owns each account that they're servicing. And so the on-ramps and off-ramps to crypto are regulated, not just in the United States here, but all around the world. And what we have to fill in the gap in the meantime is, because this ledger is public, you can go and look at the blockchain and see all the transactions going back and forth. Because this ledger is public, we have specialized firms like Chainalysis, TRM Labs, Elliptic. These are companies that work with law enforcement and work with the centralized crypto exchanges to figure out where the criminals are, where the money is going. And it's actually much more transparent than we see in the traditional financial services system. So we don't think there's a problem there. I mean, certainly, yes, criminals will try to use anything. US dollars, by the way, happens to be their most favorite, medium. But, you know, I think that there are a lot of tools there. And one of the things that we're working on is to better educate policymakers on Capitol Hill and make sure that they understand these pieces. This is not where we need legislation. We need legislation on the stablecoin side and also on the market side.